Super Mario Maker 2, a game that everyone has played at some point. Well, if they own a Nintendo Switch at least. And that's because it's another classic Mario title, but this time the players are in control and they decide what happens. You can build levels using assets from older games, and this includes power-ups. And I know you all love those a lot, because gosh darn, there are a lot of comments saying I should cover them more. So I came up with something. I saw that a lot of pretty mediocre YouTube channels are uploading videos showcasing all power-ups in certain games, without commentary or anything really. To be honest, those videos are quite garbage. It's just footage and a bit of a cash grab, which seems to work. My lord, look at those views. So I came up with the idea of taking the concept and making something better out of it, by mixing it with a review, I guess. So today we will take a look at the power-ups seen in Super Mario Maker 2 and quickly review all of them. Now, let's get into it. Alright, we'll start off with the Super Mushroom, a classic in the series that has one simple function, making you bigger, which also makes you tougher. Well, at least a bit, because the party is over as soon as you get hit by some BS projectile flying towards you from nowhere. So I mean, while it is certainly handy and can save you from a straight up game over, that would force you to do everything again, it doesn't do much. So, 6 out of 10. Next, the Fire Flower. Another one that every person on the planet has used at least once, since it's seen in almost all of the Mario games. Now, while the mushroom just made you a bit tougher, this one also gives you the option to roast any Goomba or Koopa Troopa you come across. So now you're at least a danger to the world around you, which is certainly an upgrade over the last one. Who doesn't enjoy playing with fire? And if you're good, you can beat almost any boss, enemy, or thing you come across, even being able to shoot it all around using the spin jump. So that's pretty neat. So I will give this one a solid 8 out of 10. Now on to the next one. The Super Ball Flower. A bit of a weird power-up that isn't seen in many of the games, only Super Mario Land, until it came back in Super Mario Maker 2. Now this one is quite nice. You can all of a sudden shoot balls around the place that bounce off any walls, and when they come in contact with enemies, they hurt them. But another thing it can do is trigger certain buttons or other things, allowing you to progress in the game. And this is what makes them special, because while it can be as handy as a Fire Flower, it is the only power-up that can hit things that are normally out of reach. Many people have also built whole levels around this concept, which can be challenging and fun to do. It reminds me of some sort of odd minigame, which is something new and refreshing, while it can also be used to fight enemies and such. So in general, I like what you can do with this power-up. 9 out of 10. Next, the Big Mushroom. This one is very similar to the Super Mushroom, however it is different in two ways. You become a whole lot bigger, and thanks to your new size you can also destroy almost any block seen in the game. In a way, it reminds me a lot of the Mega Mushroom from New Super Mario Bros, but less powerful of course. Otherwise, it would be too much. However, because of this, the power-up is quite lame. While it is a fun reference, in a way, it's largely useless. So, 5 out of 10. Next, the Master Sword. This one was added later on in the game in the form of an update. And I gotta say, this one is amazing. When you grab it, you basically become Link from the Legend of Zelda games, with all the bells and whistles, like bombs, a sword and shield, and even arrows. As you can imagine, I freaking love this, because I always wanted a Zelda Maker game, which we never got. The closest thing to it was the Dungeon Maker in the Link's Awakening remake. However, this power-up is even better in a lot of ways than that. And of course, many people started to create Zelda-inspired levels, with a lot of them doing great things. Like adding puzzles which can only be solved using the bow, hidden paths that you could access with bombs, and battles with bosses. Now, as you can imagine, this one gets a solid 10 out of 10. It straight up rules. Now on to the next one, the Cape Feather. With this one you can glide and even fly a bit, but you can also whack any enemies that are in your way. Again, this is a power-up that makes you tougher and gives you the option to fight back against any foe. However, it's not limited to that. The gliding and flying is a huge part of this one. We all remember it and use it when we are powered up. So of course, people started to make entire levels inspired around this, where the sky is also a part of the experience. which is really neat because a lot of the times we only run on the ground and never go up there. So it opens the door to new things, and to be honest, its powers are almost limitless. I have seen people do absolutely crazy things with it, which are really hard to pull off. So I gotta say, it does require skill, but that's certainly not a bad thing. Now, while I'm not a pro with the cape feather, I still love it, so I will give it a 9 out of 10. Next, the Propeller Mushroom. This is another one that allows you to fly. Well, sort of. It is quite different from the cape feather. You kind of turn into a helicopter, allowing you to fly straight up very quickly, and also come down with the exact same speed. If you want, at least. This opens the door to a lot of things, like being able to go high up and back to the ground really fast, grabbing certain rewards along the way. Now, while it's not great at defending enemies, it is really useful when platforming or when looking for certain hidden things like 1-ups. And so because of that, I like it. So I will give it a 7 out of 10. Next, the Super Leaf. Now, I will be honest, when it comes to this one, this power-up is incredibly similar to the cape feather. There are some minor differences, but nothing too big. So I will give this one a 7 out of 10 as well, since they are so similar. Next, the Super Bell. This one turns you into a cat, allowing you to run like one, scratch enemies, and climb trees and other obstacles. This power-up is another really cool one because it gives you a lot of options when it comes to platforming as well. Again, we see many levels in Super Mario Maker 2 make use of this, adding things you need to climb over or up, and pounce to certain places you can't otherwise reach. And when you end up in a scenario where you have to take on some foes, you have razor-sharp claws to deal with them. But to be honest, the thing that makes this power-up so cool is the insane amount of platforming options you get. In any normal Mario game, it would be too useful. But in a game like this, it's not the case. People build really cool levels completely around the Super Bell after all. So you have to use these new abilities to get past appropriately difficult obstacles. So I would say an 8.5 out of 10 is certainly fitting. Next, the Super Hammer. This one is quite odd, but very fitting for a game like Super Mario Maker 2, because you can change into a builder. It gives you the ability to use a hammer to break hard blocks and defeat enemies. But that's not all. You can also place builder boxes. So clearly this power-up actually allows you to build things or get rid of stuff when playing the actual levels. You can truly influence your surroundings. Overall, this is quite a strange concept. Normally we have to work around the obstacle scene in the world, but now we can change it to our needs. Personally, I think that's quite cool, and especially fitting for a game like Super Mario Maker 2. So I would say 9 out of 10. Next, the Super Mario Bros. 2 Mushroom. This one is a normal mushroom, but it allows you to pick up a lot of things like enemies and then throw them. This was a mechanic in Super Mario Bros. 2, which returned in the form of this power-up. But I will be straightforward, it's kind of lame and not that special. So personally, I give it a 6 out of 10. It's okay, but nothing more than that. Next, the Frog Suit. This one allows you to swim underwater more easily and run across water surfaces. While it can't really hinder you on land, it's a blessing in an underwater level, and that's why I like them. They make the underwater levels fun. Normally they are slow and can even be annoying at times, but when you have this power-up, things become a lot better. So it has a clear role that it does extremely well, and that's all I want from it really. So I would say 7 out of 10 is fitting. Next, the Super Acorn. This one turns you into some sort of squirrel, allowing you to glide and stick to walls. Now personally, I find this power-up pretty darn lackluster, especially compared to the other ones seen in the game. The Cape Feather is a more useful version of this power-up, and this also goes for the Super Leaf, so its use is limited. And thanks to this, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. Next, the Boomerang Flower. This one is amazing, I'm not gonna lie. It's a fun offensive power-up that you can use to get rid of foes. Aside from that, it can also be used to trigger switches and buttons, allowing people to do more with it than just kill enemies. So it's again a power-up that does more than your average power-up, and it's also pretty darn good at what it does, especially at getting rid of enemies. So an 8 out of 10 is a good fit, I would say. Next, the Superstar. This is a classic and I don't even have to explain it. Personally, I love it. This thing allows the players to live out their power fantasy. You're a god all of a sudden. You can race through the level, which can be very satisfying stuff. I even mentioned this in my Evolution of the Superstar video. So clearly it deserves a good score, 9 out of 10. Next, the The Rotten Mushroom. This thing is the opposite of the superstar. It actively tries to harm you. It can even follow you around, and when you touch it, you take damage. Now, while it isn't very unique, I do like what it does. Usually, power-ups are a good thing, and this one fights that stereotype, while also possibly surprising players. It's a classic trap item. It's there to surprise you, and then get rid of you, which I like. This one is an 8.5 out of 10 for sure. And now we get to our very last one, the Pea Balloon. This one is another great power-up because it allows you to move around in the air, because you turn into a balloon. And people have used this in amazing ways. Think of things like the Mario Kart maps that are seen a lot in Super Mario Maker 2. Those are tons of fun. Or some more open levels where you need to collect certain things so you can go to the end and beat the level. In general, you can do so many things with them. And so, I like it. It's for sure worth a solid 8.5 out of 10. Now we reach the end. I covered all the power-ups and you now kind of know what I think of them. But be sure to let me know what you think about these power-ups in the comments section below. And don't forget to subscribe.